Hey, let's start off with this. As Ryan Divish joins us for his weekly appearance, our MLB Insider, brought to you by Chalet Bowl, Washington's oldest operating bowling alley, proudly serving the community since 1941. Book your next reservation at chaletbowl.com. Northstars are on a heater again. I mean, do they do a mid-season manager of the year? What's your record at now?
We're 14-2 in conference and 26-10 or something. I have no idea.
Huh?
Honestly, the two conference losses we have, they shouldn't have been losses. We played like idiots in those games.
Break them up. Has the Haver Daily done a story yet on the Northstars?
The Haver Daily is no longer the Haver Daily. It's the Haver Weekly or the Haver Chronicle, but they don't do that. They got rid of all their staff pretty much. So there's another, the radio station here, similar to back when, Curtis Crabtree was writing up stories for KJR. The I guess they call it the Highline Today has stories on us somewhere. I think they might just pull the AI from Game Changer a little bit, but it's okay.
I love nothing better than the AI from Game Changer. Well, I mean, congratulations to the Northstars. The Alberta trip was successful. Then today you're getting back in the team bus and headed back to Canada.
Yeah, so on Sunday we went to Alberta, went 3-1 in scenic Vauxhall, Alberta, and then Lethbridge we went 1-1, and now we're going back up to Lethbridge today. And then, I'm just happy we make it across the border, especially with me, since I've been out in the sun a lot, so I look like a candidate for ICE to come pick me up. And then on last Sunday here, we played Lethbridge, and it was the two top teams in the district, and we swept them in a doubleheader. We beat them 12-2 in the first game, and then we came back, scored 3 in the bottom. We went extra innings, scored 3 in the bottom of the 8th, and won 17-16 in a 7-inning game that took almost 4 hours, and it was 90 out. And then it was funny is but yeah, no, the first game was great. We played well, and Larry Stone and Bob Condota were here in Scenic Harbor watching, and my buddy Brian Robinson and his girlfriend Sean were there. That's where Brian got me this sweet Rainier's hat from.
I saw the pictures. They made it out there. I was jealous.
Yeah. So, and then they went to my belated 50th birthday where my mom made bacon fried rice and this Japanese steak and sweet and sour Hawaiian pork. My girlfriend made that. And, what else do you have? Egg rolls and everything you can think of. It was a epic feast.
Your buddy Brian sent me a note just saying he's never seen a more beautiful baseball field than the one in Havre, Montana.
It's pretty good right now. And I mean, I know there's a picture I'll have to post it of the sky that Larry took while we were practicing one day, and just how big the sky can be around here and stuff like that.
It's like Field of Dreams, man. Yeah. It's unbelievable out there.
Yeah.
Beautiful. All right. Well, good luck to the Northstars. You head back up to Canada to go take on, is it Lethbridge again? Is that where we're playing?
Yeah, we play Lethbridge again. The team
just stay up there.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. And then we play back here tomorrow against another team from Alberta, and then we have a few days off for the 4th.
Okay.
So it's the first 4th of July I've spent in Montana in 20-some years.
Oh, good. Well, it'd be fun. I'm sure it gets a little loose at 4th of July there.
There's a lot of things. There's a lot of shit getting blown up.
I would imagine. There's a lot of blowing up. All right. M's, they fall on Tuesday to the Royals. They have started a homestand. They continue this just everywhere. They're playing almost every single day. And they just can't make up any ground on the Astros. In fact, they lost the game. They're now 7 games back of Houston now with their records sitting at 40, where are they at now? 44 and 41. And the offense, at least on Tuesday, just hitting into double plays. Hancock wasn't great. Just overall where they're at right now, I mean, 7 games at this point in the season, July 2nd. Obviously, they can overcome that. I guess what is surprising and concerning at the same time, though, is this is a Houston team that, no Bregman, no Tucker, have not had Alvarez. In fact, they're going to have a setback with Alvarez in his hand or his wrist. Jeremy Pena now is banged up. Yet you can't. They're like cockroaches, man. You can't kill these guys off.
No, and it's just kind of where they're at in their schedule as well, and some of the things, some of the matchups. But I mean, like, they beat up on the Twins and the Mariners. What they split with the Twins. I mean, like, it's just, it's just different points in the season when you're playing teams as well. But I mean, I think we're seeing kind of more of who the Mariners are. They're not a team that's gonna, they'll have good stretches, but the kind of the inefficiencies in their lineup, some of the question marks about their bullpen. And then still, like, you still haven't seen the best versions of all their starting pitchers. That's what you're going to see is some, win. But if you just take 2 out of 3, I get consistently down the road, that'll be important. But yeah, I look at this team and you can kind of see the warts in it all. I mean, Polanco hasn't played really lately. Mm-hmm. So it's like all these things kind of just show you, look, the Mariners are pretty good and they put themselves in a good position, but they're also not at a point where they can sit there and are going to run away with the division or even, like the idea of chasing down a 7-game deficit, that's going to take time. That's going to take almost a month to do that. It's not going to be, you're not going to do it in 10 games because the Astros just are good enough that they're not going to lose 10 games in a row like that. What is it? Cam Young or Cam Smith or whatever.
Like Cam Smith. Just a beautiful looking baseball player.
Yeah. I mean, like, and he's only going to get better. And just it's not simple for the Mariners to win games. So every time you think that they really look strong, they bounce back and have a game where you're like, oh my God, this is this team. And I think part of it too, when you have positions where you're just not getting, average production or replacement level production overall, I mean, that's a problem. It's like I love watching Ben Williamson play defense, and I love how he goes about his at-bats. I love how he grinds them out, but at the same time, you need some doubles and some homers every once in a while. It can't just all be singles all the time.
Yeah. I mean, his average is there, but slugging and his OPS just is not, and that's just not the player he is. It is funny though, the discord with him on social media, and I'm not judging everything on social media, but Jesus God, for some people, it's as if he's the worst third baseman this organization has ever had.
Yeah.
I mean, I saw something yesterday where they're talking about his fielding percentage and his arm strength, and I'm like, do you people watch the game? I mean, honestly, sit and watch the game. Because he made a play yesterday in foul territory, ran to his right late in the game, backhanded a ball, and threw a laser to first.
Yeah.
Absolute hose. There is nothing wrong with his defense.
Yeah,
batting-wise, power-wise, I 100% agree. That's not there. It may never be there. It may just never be that type of player.
Well, I think, he's had some mistakes defensively and stuff like that, but I think kind of, and maybe I'm just as guilty of it as well, but like kind of the expectations of him defensively and what he was supposed to be might have been a little unrealistic at times, coming up. I mean, he's an outstanding defensive player. He's going to make mistakes, partially because like, he makes plays on balls and he gets, he does stuff where other third basemen don't even make the attempt on it. And if people want to complain, let's remember that Luis Urias and Josh Rojas were the third baseman last year for most of the season.
Right.
So,
well, and I think though at the same, what I also think he's wearing, and it hasn't really happened to Cole Young yet, but I think Ben Williamson is also wearing the frustrations of a fan base.
Yeah.
Who was told like all these young players are coming up. And wait till you see this second wave.
Yeah.
Right. We got the pitchers. Now it's the position players. And he was thrown into that mix.
Yeah. But this shit is hard. I mean, like Jared Kelenic was as ready, from a physical tool standpoint and doing stuff in the minor leagues. Now he got rushed a little bit, but like everybody thought Kelenic was going to hit, that at best he would be a solid major, at worst he would be a solid major league player, and at best he would be an all-star. And, he look where he's at. He's spending his whole time in AAA. Mm-hmm. I mean, I just think like, that's when they always sit there and say, call up the kids. It can't be worse than what we're watching now. Oh, it can be.
Sure.
Not only is it the production worse, but you're doing damage to the player. It's hard. I mean, it kind of makes what's crazy about what the Angels are doing is just calling up all these draft picks right out of basically 1 year out of school and putting them in the big leagues and letting them figure out on their own. But those kids are college kids too, and like they're doing all this stuff. So no, I don't like Ben Williamson was far from a finished product when they called him up. They called him up out of necessity because
Right.
Jorge Polanco couldn't play third base, and they didn't really have better options. So, I mean, like, I think, it's funny. It's like, and you mentioned social media, and that's probably been the best part about this sabbatical is that I watch the games without really looking at Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
And if I do, I only kind of look at like the people that I don't really look at my mentions. And so, or the content creators that create content for social media, but don't really, which is based off of all the reporting everybody else does. But yeah, no, I don't. I just think I think it's with his team, it's easy to have extreme views when they're not an extreme one way or the other team. Their results aren't extreme one way.
They want to, but fans want to lash out at somebody.
Yeah, I mean, because
and I think it's not he's not a bad player, he's not a bad person, but I think they felt like they were promised this great talent coming up. They don't see it with him, so they're going to lash out at him as a player. And again, I'm not saying he doesn't have his issues. And should they upgrade at third base? Of course, if they can get Suarez, of course, yes, go and do it. No one would sit here and tell you otherwise. But I don't know. I just something about his defense the other day. I'm like, I don't agree with it. But
you can nitpick a little bit. But again,
of course, he's not going to be perfect at it.
But like that's another thing is like if you look at all that's wrong with this team, it's not Ben Williamson's fault. I mean, like I could get the people that are upset that he's been forced into playing in this role because they just didn't go out and do enough in the offseason, and they didn't, they just tried to patchwork it together and say, okay, or that they looked at a 32-year-old guy that has coming off a knee surgery and thought, okay, well, we can play him at third base every day or most days. I can understand that anger, but like taking it out on the kid because he's not performing the way you want or whatever. And it's like Normandale and Hoosiers. This is who they are. It's not going to change. This is your team. It's not going to change till the deadline. I mean, like nobody's, you want Suarez. Well, the Diamondbacks still think they have a chance. So they're not going to just dump Eugenio Suarez now. Like of the teams in the big leagues that are pretty much done and out of it, the White Sox, the Rockies, although the Marlins have won like 8 in a row. And then, the Orioles should be out of it, but they aren't. The Pirates are out of it. Mm-hmm. So there's like 3 teams, like you just can't make moves now. You can't get better right now because there's too many teams believe they have a chance. I mean, like the Diamondbacks, were they 6 games out of the wild card? The NL wild card, they believe they can overcome that. Mm-hmm. In the same, people go, why would you think that? Well, the same reason you think that Demeric could still catch the Astros. Like the third wild card has evened out the playing field so much that everybody stays in it. It's like Rob Manfred's wet dream and all this stuff.
It's actually 3 back of the third.
Yeah.
3
so
back.
I mean, like, why would they? They're not going to sell when in this position. Like you've invested this much money into it. Like. Common sense maybe tells you, oh, yeah, they're not going to, and they're pitching so beat up, and Corbin Carroll's hurt and all this stuff. But again, that's, it's hard for a GM who's spent all this time putting together a roster to just sit there and say, no, I'm done. Like let's sell off.
You brought them up early. Well, and then also I think on that same notion, your partner in crime, Adam Jew, just wrote, kind of a mid-season report. What would the Mariners target at the deadline? Decisions need to be made, and the one name that got everybody's was Alex Bregman. Would the Red Sox, because what they did with Devers, would they consider moving Alex Bregman? But I would throw, I'd like to know what the Red Sox thinking is right now. Yeah. They're 2.5 games out of the third wild card.
Yeah.
They're not, and now they've made that youth movement and they could still keep Bregman on. Obviously he's dealing with the injury, but they could still keep him on. Most likely he's going to opt out no matter what.
Yeah.
At the end of the season. But yeah, for sure. They're not out of it. The Rangers are 2.5 games back. They're not out of it. You can leave the Guardians as well. They're 3 back of that third wild card spot. What would be the most demoralizing thing this year for the Mariners? One, to me, I think the most demoralizing thing is that they can't win the division. They can't win the division this year with the way that team ahead of them, the Astros, was constructed, and then all the injuries that they had. All of them. Losing their best power hitter, the injuries to their pitching staff, all of that. That's embarrassing if they can't win the division. If somehow the Angels, and you just brought up the Angels with what they're doing down there, if they somehow, they're a game and a half back of them.
I know.
If they catch the Mariners and get that third wild card spot, how fast can you get the USS Mariner barge to get the whole front office out of town?
Well, that's the thing is,
how soon could we put everyone on that?
Do you think that the front office feels pressure to win right now? Like, because it's so weird.
I don't know.
Like
I don't know.
We thought last year was like, if they didn't win it, they weren't going to be here. But, I don't know. It's so weird how honestly, I've been covering that team for, I've been covering this team for 20 years, and I don't really know how the ownership works. Now, this is a different ownership group, but like understanding them sometimes, like the one under Howard Lincoln and stuff, they were afraid to tear it down and rebuild. They always just kind of wanted to patch it together and just be good enough. And this one seems to be the same way, but not willing to spend to do that. That they're I think I've called them risk averse. That they want to win, but they don't have the courage to do what it takes to win. The ownership groups. But I don't know. It's just like, what would they do if they don't make it? Would they clean house? I mean, and sure, and Stanton's thinking is like, well, all these guys, we have all these pieces here. That's Jerry put them together. So why would we do that? But I don't know. Part of it
that's what I'm saying. Do you get any sense of that though at all?
No,
is there any
I don't.
sense of just of who you talk to that, Adam and Tim and these guys, or all your baseball, voices and people that your connections? I mean, is there any sense that if they fail this year that they would make any type of changes? Because I'll be honest, I'm kind of like you. I think they'd run it back again.
I do too. I think, honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if they did that again. Because again, like, for as much as like people say they're never going to go to games and everything like that, these games this weekend, even against the Pirates, when it's going to be hot and nice out, there are going to be a lot of people there.
Of course.
There will be. That you've seen some of these games on the Fridays, and whether or not they have, irrespective of it's just like bobbleheads or whatever, they're still drawing. I don't think they're drawing at the pace they did last year. Right. They're still drawing. And if this team is in it, if they're playing meaningful baseball in the last July, August, and September, they'll have numbers, and so it's like, fans can sit there and say all this and I'm boycotting this and that. Mariners and most sports owners know that not to be true. Yeah. That if you're competitive enough and if you're if you're in it and you have a chance, most fans will still show up because they care that much about the team.
At some time, though, but an ownership, though, now they've probably lost all good graces with this fan base, but at some point, if you don't do anything this year, how can you, after John Stanton and this ownership group, look at anyone and talk about your goal is to win the World Series?
Oh, I know.
Your goal is to be a championship contending team because, last two off seasons, they didn't do anything. And then once again, we're in year 10, and this was supposed to be the year that they all talked about as they continue to push the goal, move the goalpost down. This was going to be the year, and they shouldn't be in this position. They shouldn't be 44 and 41 in this division, of all divisions.
Yeah. The Bregman thing is interesting, like you mentioned that. Like, does keeping him around for the rest of the season, even knowing that he's going to opt out, give you a better chance of signing him? I mean, because they just wiped 250 off the books with Devers. Can they just take the 250 that they had for Devers and say, hey, look, why don't we just give this to you?
Well, what is he? I guess that Bregman at his age. I mean, they're all competitors, right? Is he chasing rings right now? Is he chasing more of that parachute contract to end it? And he loves hitting there, and he's got great success there. If I were him, I wouldn't go anywhere else.
Well, I mean, he just got $25 million this year, right, for playing 1 year, essentially. Yeah. I think he
can get even
25
more.
Or 30. Yeah, I don't remember what it is, but like they get even if 35 maybe.
Well, but I think it was a 3-year 120 deal, wasn't it?
Yeah. So yeah. Oh, so 40. So then, like, all I have to say is, hey, look, opted out, but we'll give you this. They could backload it because that's another thing. Like, and I know you mentioned this with Duquette. There's a lockout coming, and the salary structure of now it might not necessarily affect Alex Bregman, but if they somehow sneak in some level of of a salary cap or something like that, I think you want to be grandfathered in on under the current CBA
Yes.
than the next CBA. So don't dick around, get your money while you can, and realistically, you look at the young base of the Red Sox, it's pretty good. Like they're super athletic and they can really run. Like be that guy, be the leader of that team. And he has that kind of quality. Like if I'm the Red Sox, yeah, we're going to keep him around. We're going to try and do everything we can. And like, does keeping him around and not dealing him at the deadline make it easier or somehow help you? I mean, I know he's a Boris guy, so who knows? But that's
and then the other thing you brought, like we go back to Suarez and talking about him and Duquette, is you brought Duquette up, is that, I mean, there is one is Arizona. They don't feel that they're out of it, and they're not. And then number two is, it's not like the Mariners are the only team that need a right-hand hitting bat that mashes.
No, I mean, like, you can go down the list of contenders, and the thing is like now he's in the final year of his deal, so it's $2 million. It's 2 months, 2 months of the prorated salary. I mean, that's not a ton for a team to take on, and like make the pay it out for that much. Same with Naylor, who's a ARB eligible guy. Like getting those guys for the last couple of months of the season, it's an investment. It's basically a mercenary. You're bringing them in to try and win. But yeah, like Yankees. I'm trying to look at who else that would do it. The Cubs. Cubs don't really. They're playing Matt Shaw as the third baseman, I believe. There are teams that would do it. Hell, the Astros would do it. The Mariners have the best prospects to get the best return.
Sure.
So if you're a GM and if you're Mike Hazen in Arizona, you're saying, well, okay, we're going to do this. So we want the best prospects. The Mariners have the best prospects. You can ask the most from them. You never know. The Yankees in their quest to do this, don't really give a shit about their prospects in a lot of ways. Like, obviously they're not going to trade George Lombard, their best guy, but like they'll dump a guy or they'll get some, they'll do something to go over the top to get a guy if they have to. Baltimore is the real wild card. What are they going to do? Are they going to get rid of Mike Elias and they're going to get somebody else and do different GM, or what are they going to do? Because if you're the GM of the Orioles, you're thinking, well, my core is still really good. Why would I want to trade him? We just screwed up the pitching portion of it. Maybe we can do that again next year. Or you look at it and just say, some of my core guys aren't that good. We need a pitcher, and we'll move him then and go from there. Phillies would take Suarez in a second too, because what's his name, Bohm, isn't doing much.
Do you think, having covered him for many, many years in Dipoto, do you think his ego would get in the way of reacquiring Suarez?
No, because he doesn't think like that.
Okay.
Because you got to remember, like, Jerry ultimately believes he's smarter than what the average fan thinks or has a better understanding, and so he's like, no, we did it this way. And his basis would be, well, ownership told us we couldn't add payroll, so we restructured and we moved Geno around because we needed to free up payroll to do other stuff. We did that. Now we're in a position where we can do that, so let's go get him again.
But they didn't. That's the thing, though. Did they even really free up payroll? Wasn't he owed like 11.5? And that same year, didn't they sign Garver to the 2-year, $24 million deal?
Well, yeah, that was part of it. Is like they got Garver for 2 years. They traded Geno. They freed up a bunch of Robbie Ray money, with trading for Haniger. Like they still made money in the end, I think. And then like with Polanco, they didn't pick up the option for the next year. So like it maybe wasn't as much freed up money for last year as it was this year, which they didn't really use that much. But it was just kind of, it wasn't like rearranging the deck chairs, but it was it was a lot of like roster manipulation. And that would be the knock on it, is they manipulated the roster so much to add pieces for last season, and the result wasn't any better. The players you acquired, they all had kind of question marks. Polanco, Haniger, all those guys, they were never anything that you thought they would be. But I don't think Jerry has that in him, because in his mind, he moves forward, and you know how he is. I'm sure he believes he can explain it, or believes he can sell it at least to the ownership group. I don't think anything he says will sell it to the fans anymore, because they're just that sour on him, But I think that's the case. I don't think he has. Because think about how many guys he's traded away and then reacquired at times, I mean, like they weren't named guys per se, but like even Polanco, they don't pick up the option and then they bring him right back. They don't. It's not.
Speaking of Polanco, if you have an injured knee, why take such an aggressive lead?
Yeah. No.
And if you're the first base coach, why would you allow him to do that? And if you're the manager, why would you allow him to do that? Just
I don't
doesn't
know.
make any sense.
Then again, it's like
This zero.
the one time I thought for sure they would play small ball, Cole Young doesn't bunt. Like I was kind of,
Yeah, that was another curious one too. I mean, he did address it after the game, saying that he's been swinging a good bat, but
it's like, and I know there were guys down, but Trent Thornton threw 2 innings, then you bring him back, and he's the one coming off the injured list.
I don't.
And it's clear, like his velo is down almost 2 ticks on his fastball.
Help me make that make sense of that one. I really don't get that one, especially when you had the other kid that they just called up.
Yeah.
Burgos.
Great hair on that guy, man.
Hey, great hair and great skin.
Yeah. That guy looks like a model. He's like remember when Fabio's on the cover of all those romance novels?
I'm glad
he's huge, like in the Latin American countries. He's like a romance telenovela.
I'm glad you acknowledged that. That was the first thing I thought. I was like,
he was like,
you know what? That's a damn good looking guy right there.
I didn't even see the roster move at that point. I was out, and so then I look and go, is that Juan Burgos in the bullpen? I was like, and I knew that like. They just rode Zach Top into DFA, making him pitch all those.
Oh my God! They just beat him into the ground and said, we
want
to leave."
Like, Juan Burgos, man, that guy's got some salad coming out of the back of the hair.
So there's a lot of people that how do you think Wilson has handled it his first full year?
It's curious.
Yeah,
like he doesn't do like with Scott. It wasn't so much he used his gut more than people think. But like Scott lived off the percentages and like the understanding of like I want my best against their best, and like there was a pattern in the sense that like all his main leverage guys like Brash and Munoz and stuff, they were only going to pitch if it was 1 run down, tied, or up. They weren't going to be used other ways, and like the pinch hitting stuff was pretty predictable. The platoon stuff, Dan does stuff a little differently, and maybe it's more feel. He's got Manny acted as his bench coach, who is more numbers oriented than any guy.
Right.
So I don't know. It's what's funny, and I don't know if you've noticed this, but me and my friends have, is that like Goldie is feeling himself these days, and he'll just talk about it. Like he has no problem talking about it, and while he doesn't openly disagree with it.
Well, earlier in the season he was. I'm pretty sure he got a talking to.
But he still is
cool
kind
it down a little bit.
What he does is he'll just say well, the numbers say this or something like this, or this is in past years Scott Service would it's like, so he finds a way to talk around it. He's like a columnist without a take, but he's giving you all the sides of it all.
Well, and I think he has even snuck in a softy grunt. Huh.
Yeah. Huh. Yeah. He does that on missed pitches and then on other stuff. But yeah, it's like, because some of it is just against what you would think modern baseball thinking is, or even typical baseball thinking. Because it's not like the other day with Cole Young. That's not like that would be a more old school way to do it.
Sure.
And then modern baseball thinking is never bunting, and that he still does that. And I know this like the one time JP bunted, I'm sure they told him, hey, move him over any way you can.
Yeah.
Like, you got to get the runner over any way you can, whether you pull a ball or whatever you bunt. Maybe JP looked at the situation, because a lot of times these guys bunt. It's not like they're being told to bunt. Mm-hmm. It's like the steals. These guys just go when they're supposed to. They think they're going to make it. So I don't know. It's different. Like with me, like Mike, because obviously, in the media sense, my complaint with Dan was never like about strategy. My frustrations were like withholding of information on players being injured, and then just really not articulating what, like, on a decision he makes like that. Just saying, we thought this was the best guy, or we knew he would battle, or guys are playing hard, this team fights like that. I need more of an explanation. I remember telling Scott Service, like, look, after the game, like I said, there'll be times where I may ask you about a bullpen decision or whatever. And a lot of times, like he even one time asked me, he's like, why would you ask me that question? You know the answer. I said, because it's not whether I write it, you have to say it. I know what you're thinking. I know your process, but you have to do it. And then with Scott, I would tell him too, is like, hey, look, I'm going to ask you about certain things. You can give me the answer. But if I don't like the answer, if I think it's pretty like kind of vague, I'm going to ask about it the next day as a follow-up. So you have your 24 hours to get, your thinking in line with how you want to explain it or explain your thinking. That was one thing. Like Scott really kind of opened the door on what they thought about things and how their process was. I mean, you remember Jude wrote that story about the card and using WOBA and all that stuff when he goes to what matchups he thinks is best and stuff like that. He was very open about it. And I think that's the problem. I think probably the frustration with Aaron at times or with the fans is Dan doesn't really do a very good job articulating why he does what he does.
Sure. I get it. All right, good luck. Back into Canada. Don't get stopped. Make sure you have all your papers. Manager of the year of the Havre Northstars, Ryan Divish, our MLB insider with us every single Wednesday. Proudly brought to you by Chalet Bowl, Washington's oldest operating bowling alley. Proudly serving the community since 1941. Book your next reservation today at chaletbowl.com. Go get them.
Is this a proper breakfast? He's eating zucchini bread with lots of butter.
I mean, how's he hitting? How's he hitting?
He's hitting pretty good.
Okay, then you know what he can do? He can have whatever he wants as long as he keeps hitting.
Although Larry and Bob wanted to see me have a temper tantrum.
They
missed it, and the only temper tantrum I had was at him because he forgot how many outs there were on the bases. I spiked my coaching helmet about 20 feet in the air.
Yeah, but he probably went 3 for 4.
2 for 4 with 2 walks and about 3 RBIs.
You live with that, don't you? You just live with it.
It's like the A-Ride effect. I just got to live with the production while I don't necessarily like personality.
All right, good luck.
All right, man. See you.